Welcome back to the Lawyer Life podcast, my friends. I wanted to hop on here today for a quick episode because there are so many exciting things that are happening in the month of June across the podcast, my meditation space, and honestly, in this entire evolution of the work that I'm doing. If you've been with me here for a while, you know that this work has always been bigger than just career conversations and stress management for attorneys. What I care most and deeply about is just helping people, especially high achievers, professionals, lawyers, leaders, caregivers, and entrepreneurs reconnect with themselves under the pressure and all of the burnout and our conditioning and the constant performing that has really become endemic in our professional lives today. And lately, I've been learning even more about the intersection between neuroscience, mindfulness, and nervous system healing. Add to that, I've been studying identity work, embodiment, meditation, and holistic wellness, and how that intersects with life and career coaching. Those of you that know me well know that I have a real cringe factor associated with the coaching industry in general. I believe that there are a lot of really amazing coaches out there. I struggle with some of the approaches, including some of the approaches that I were taught, because I think they're really missing the mark in that they assume that coaching and sort of cognitive behavioral therapy and reworking kind of how you think about things is really the only way forward. And my studies in all of these areas have really opened my eyes to what I have found to be true in my own personal experience. And that is true transformation requires a lot more than just coaching or talk therapy. We really have to focus on embodiment and nervous system healing and broader health and wellness. And that's exactly why I launched my new podcast, Lady-ish Wellness Unfiltered. And yes, it is open and available to men as well. Absolutely. This space is meant to be a little bit more expansive, a little bit more honest, more raw, but certainly more holistic than just coaching and career work. In that side of my work, I'm focusing more on nervous system regulation, meditation, burnout, identity changes, including, for even me, shifting from this identity as a lawyer and kind of a corporate professional to this person who sort of moved away from all of that and how that shook up my own idea about who I was and where that identity came from. So I talk a lot about that. I also speak a little bit to spirituality and reinvention, emotional healing, manifestation, and embodiment. We spend time talking about leadership, the physiology of stress, which I find fascinating, learning about how stress and cortisol actually impact our neural pathways, but the gray matter in really essential parts of our brain. I kind of pull this all together with mindfulness as kind of the overarching umbrella. And what I'm hoping to kind of talk more about is what it actually looks like to create a life that feels aligned instead of just productive and shiny and fancy from the outside. And honestly, I think a lot of us are really craving that right now, especially those of us that have spent years achieving and striving and caretaking and pushing and producing and over functioning just to survive in really high pressure environments. I really feel like it's kind of reaching a breaking point for a lot of us because eventually, whether we like to admit it or not, our nervous system is keeping the score. And the more we borrow from our bodies, from our nervous systems to give today, the more we show up in a deficit. And over time, that can wreak tremendous havoc on your personal and your professional life. So, one of the things that I've become really passionate about is helping people understand that burnout and exhaustion, it's not just running out of juice emotionally. Burnout itself actually changes our brain. Chronic stress and high levels of cortisol, which I think is how we live day in and day out in the legal world. I know I certainly did. That kind of elevated, sustained level of stress impacts the parts of your brain that are responsible for memory, focus, emotional regulation, sleep, nervous system functioning, and even our brain's ability to feel motivated or safe. So, for those of you that have experienced burnout, I'm guessing that you're thinking, when I was feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out, I had a hard time remembering things. I had a hard time focusing. I would lash out at people. I couldn't regulate my emotions. I didn't sleep well. And I just never felt very motivated at work. And that is because that stress is eroding all of those parts of your brain. For so many high stress professions, especially law, corporate leadership, but also like healthcare and entrepreneurship and caregiving, in a lot of those professions, we normalize living in survival mode for so long that we really stop recognizing what regulation even feels like. And that is really one of the reasons why meditation has become such a foundational part of my work and my own life. And it's not because meditation is just about relaxing, it's about the science behind it. Because what science is telling us is that meditation can actually support neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and form new neural pathways and strengthen the parts of our brain that are being eroded by high levels of stress. Meditation has been shown to help reduce stress responses, improve emotional regulation, support focus and attention, and even change activity in areas of your brain associated with fear and rumination. And it's just so powerful to me when you think about all of the pressure that we live under as professionals, as attorneys, or whatever your background may be, and the impact that has on our bodies and our brain. It becomes so much of a no-brainer, pun intended, that we start exploring meditation more seriously because it has been proven to counteract a lot of the detrimental effects of stress. So this month on my sister podcast, Lady Ish, I'm diving into some really powerful conversations and science around all of this. I'm going into a lot of detail on meditation, neuroplasticity, and rewiring the brain, the science behind manifestation, how burnout changes your brain. Really important topic for all of you here. We're also wrapping up the month with a discussion on the psychology of reinvention and kind of changing that identity that we hold so strongly to. During the month, I'm also going to be releasing guided meditations to correspond to the moon and the new moon. So if you're feeling like getting a little weird and woo woo, those are available as well, because I really want this work to feel practical and grounded and supportive, but also really accessible to everybody, not just attorneys. The reason that I love this new work so much, and I wanted to pop over here and talk about it, is because there's a lot of science behind how our nervous system adapts. There's science behind mindfulness, science behind meditation, science behind emotional regulation, science behind identity and behavioral change. So, yes, even though I'm a little woo woo and always have been, a lot of the things that I support and endorse and talk about on that sister podcast are really rooted in science. At the end of the day, I am a lawyer and I have this logical brain that really needs to understand why this stuff works. And I'm talking a lot about all of that on my sister podcast. And if the science is not appealing enough to you, I do think that there is just something incredibly human and spiritual about learning how to slow down enough just to hear yourself again, to hear your intuition, to hear yourself say what's working and what's not working. So that brings me to something else that I'm really excited about. I launched a private podcast space and a meditation space called Becoming Her. And again, this is not limited to women. It's just the branding that felt right and resonated most with me. That space is designed for people who want deeper support and more intentional transformation work, but don't really want to engage a coach, which I totally understand. One of the things that we're doing inside Becoming Her right now is the 21-day Future Self Meditation Challenge. It's 21 days of guided meditation. And I'm so excited about this work because it's designed to help people begin shifting not just their mindset, but their nervous system, their self concept, emotional patterns, and identity through consistent meditation and intentional practice. It's not intended to be a big pull. It's intended to be very bite sized and simple. It's in podcast format, so you can take it with you in the car. You can do it while you're walking if it's not feasible for you to make space just to sit and contemplate. The challenge is going to walk through a variety of themes like calming the nervous system, reconnecting with your intuition and inner knowing, confidence, which oddly enough, the vast majority of lawyers that I work with want to be more confident, emotional regulation, future self embodiment, releasing limiting beliefs, and becoming more intentional about the version of yourself that you're practicing every day. Because the truth is, we become shaped by what we repeatedly practice. Our world, our reality reflects our habits, our habitual patterns, and that includes our thinking patterns because our thoughts become patterns. And those patterns over time start to formulate beliefs, which found our identity. And that ultimately drives our behavior. So if we want different experiences externally and in our outside world, we have to start with the internal work, not through shame and judging ourselves or forcing ourselves to be someone different or to make these changes, but through awareness, repetition, regulation, and intentional change. And I think it's really, really, really important for people in high pressure careers. As someone who has worked in law, in leadership, business building, and high performance environments my entire life, I know how easy it is to disconnect from yourself while succeeding externally. I did it for years while I was absolutely miserable at work and living in an abusive relationship. I know what it feels like to live constantly on, always being on, to normalize stress, to push through exhaustion, to push through disappointment and failure and shame, and to tie your worth to productivity and to really lose touch with rest, intuition, presence, creativity, softness, or really even joy and just enjoying something fully. So, meditation became one of the things that helped bring me back to myself. And if you've been a longtime listener, there are absolutely episodes on here that talk a little bit about that process for me. But it really was what rooted me. And it wasn't perfect and it didn't happen overnight, but it was a gradual shift. And now I understand that I was rebuilding parts of my brain. The meditation practice helped me create space between the chaos and the stimulus around me and how I was responding. It helped me learn how to regulate my nervous system to not get pulled in to those hurricanes of stress that was my personal and professional life. And it helped me become more intentional instead of just purely reactive. And that is truly why I care so deeply about sharing these tools with other people. So, if any of these topics resonate with you, whether you're interested in mindfulness, nervous system healing, emotional wellness, meditation, identity work, burnout recovery, spirituality, neuroscience, or just wanting to learn how to feel like yourself again, I would love for you to join us. You can listen to the free episodes over on Lady Ish Wellness Unfiltered. It's linked in the show notes today as well. And if you're wanting deeper guided support in transformational practices, you can also join us inside Becoming Her, my private podcast space and check out the 21-day Future Self Meditation Challenge. Everything will be linked in the show notes today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for evolving with me and supporting me in my own evolution. And thank you for allowing me to create spaces where we can have these conversations honestly and openly and without pretending like we've got it all figured out. I'm really excited for what's ahead, and I really hope to see many of you over on Ladyish Wellness Unfiltered. Until next time, my friends.